Back then, I think they would pretty much take anybody who opened their mouth and English words fell out. Good morning. A little after 6 a.m. in Wuhan, China. Be careful what you wish for, right? I was wishing for months that the summer would go away and fall would come. And now it's arrived and it's a little chilly. Oh, by the way, fake trees. Fake, fake, fake. I'm back. It's about 10 minutes to 7 now. I've arrived at East Lake for what ought to be a gorgeous walk. Today I was thinking about something my students asked me in class the other day. How has China changed since I first came here? Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about today. Fall is really coming fast. I'm sure when I get back here in another week or two, there will be, well, a lot of dead plants. I hope you don't mind the stream of consciousness, meandering nature of this video. I haven't really planned what I'm going to say or what I'm going to think about in terms of memories. But I guess a good place to start is just the ease with which I came here on a visa. Back in those days, you could come over on a tourist visa, and if you got a job with a reputable school or training center, they could transfer it into a work visa, residence permit. You know, there were some steps you needed to take, but it was a streamlined, fairly straightforward, not a difficult process. And flash forward to these days, and I'm talking before COVID, it has gotten so difficult to get a work visa and residence permit here in China. Probably more important was the qualifications you needed to get a job here in China. Back then, I think they would pretty much take anybody who opened their mouth and English words fell out. These days, you know, you need to have at least a bachelor's degree. In many places, you need to have 2 years of teaching experience that they can check, plus a master's degree at universities and other qualifications that you have to meet. Yeah, things have really changed. And actually, for the better. I think the Chinese and the Chinese students and the Chinese parents, this is something that they worry about, having unqualified teachers teaching their kids. But let me change topics, because what I really was thinking about and what my students were thinking about is what has changed in China. And I guess I could start with, you know, I landed in Zhuhai in Guangdong Province, which is right next to Macau, very close to Hong Kong. So it is, you know, a different animal than had I gone to some place in a rural mountain, you know, less urbane situation. I think everybody's China story is specific to who they are and where they went. But Zhuhai, you know, a nice city, but still very underdeveloped in terms of, well, underdeveloped in terms of international presence. I always joke that you can tell how developed a city is in China by how many Starbucks they have. Of course, back then there were no Starbucks. There were just KFCs and McDonald's. That was pretty much it for the international and certainly the American presence. Anyway, Zhuhai. It was an early economic zone after the 1978 reform and opening up. Deng Xiaoping's opening to the world semi-market economy, all that. Zhuhai was one of the early economic zones, although it was kind of a failed economic zone. The problem with Zhuhai was that there was no transportation infrastructure. There was no train there. You had to go 2 hours to get to a train in Guangzhou. One of the very strange experiences was that Zhuhai had gates around it at all the main roads. And so if you're on a bus, like I would often be going to Guangzhou, going to the train station, you would pass through these gates of what are essentially the city limits of Zhuhai. And somebody would come on the bus and check your papers. There is and always has been this hukou system, this residence system, whereby you need to be an official resident of whatever city or province, and that would make you eligible for a whole bunch of services, including the ability to get education, to get a job in any kind of government, a whole bunch of restrictions. Just imagine, you're on a public bus, you're going from Zhuhai to Guangzhou, 2-hour trip, you go through the gate, the toll booth, and somebody comes on and checks everybody's papers except for yours. Talk about your white privilege. They're looking for people who shouldn't be going, into Guangzhou or into Zhuhai or wherever. Yeah, the transportation issue, that made me think about China it was an all-cash society back then. People would walk around with huge wads of 100 RMB bills, and nearly all payment was in cash for everyday things. If I wanted to buy a train ticket from, let's say, Guangzhou to Guilin, well, I could have my Chinese friends order it to be delivered, and you'd have to give them cash on delivery. There were no credit cards in China, and there were certainly no apps, no smartphones at that point. They didn't do personal checks. They didn't have ATM bank transfers. So it was pretty much a heavy cash society. Yeah, the cash situation made me think about some of the quirks of living in our apartments. Back then, and it may still be true in certain parts of China, my heating and my water heating was by these gigantic canisters. I say gigantic, I don't know. Maybe they're somewhere between 50 and 100 pounds. And you had to just make sure that you order a new one before you run out. You just sort of wheel it out to the front door to the delivery guy. And this wiry little 110-pound delivery guy is just carrying it like he's an Olympic weightlifter. And then for other utilities, phone, electricity, water, the landlord would give us a bill, give us the bill he receives each month, and we have to go to the convenience store and pay for it there.
Watching the ships roll in, then I watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll.
Yeah, the convenience store. I mean, just imagine your, everyday 7-Eleven, whatever. And, people are in there, they're buying their snacks, they're buying their steamed buns, their small necessities. And there's also a line of people who need to pay their utility bills. It just, oh my God. Yeah, and of course the bills all come at the same time of the month. So you really have to time your trip to the convenience store. I don't know how many times back then that I would just walk to the convenience store and then just walk somewhere else because there was too much of a line. It's kind of like in America buying lottery tickets. It really, you see someone buying lottery tickets and you just know, maybe you ought to hold off on your Slurpee. What else? Let's stick with the apartment and the apartment living. I really had to adjust my expectations when I lived in China for the first time. Coming from America, we're just used to a certain level of comfort, things that work all the time. In China, I didn't expect as much, and I was happy with that. So I would get this apartment with this, god-awful, uncomfortable, kind of Chinese-style sofas and chairs. They're big wooden, mahogany-colored looking things that were terribly uncomfortable. And then they'd have like a very thin pad of cushion. You always had to go to a store and find a second or third cushion to put on top of it. But those were kind of the fun things. You didn't expect much. In these days, I didn't have internet in the apartment. I had it at school, so that was good. But there was no social media at that point. It wasn't the same thing. Still, that left me with, whatever music I had on my MP3 player or the TV. And the TV, of course, was kind of like, about 6 different channels of Chinese news and dramas about, World War II and large romantic dramas, all in Chinese. And, if you haven't figured it out by now, my Chinese sucks. But back then it was almost to wrap things up. Oh, that's interesting. There is no security in this waters. Where was I? To wrap this up, I didn't really get into, wow, China has grown so many tall buildings. The whole economy has changed. We all know this. I just wanted to talk about some of my memories from my first year living in China. And I know it's been meandering. I know it hasn't been too coherent. I hope it has been interesting. And if you did think it was interesting, please share this video. I would appreciate it. I do thank you guys for watching. And if you have a comment, please drop one below. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. And I'll catch you later.